All right. Welcome to this session on hay production. This is Gerry Danko. He's a local producer, although originally from Canada.
Boy, that's a long way.
Originally from Canada.
A foreign country.
Foreign country. And a little known fact is that he used to be the wrestling coach at this institution. Award-winning hay production, which he's brought some of that here today. Mr. Danko is aware of details. As I've been working with him, the thing I've come to realize is that details matter with production. So he's going to talk about a lot of different things, but really it's having a really good picture of the whole system. So that's what he's about. So we'll let him begin his lecture.
The first thing you're going to notice, there's quite a few handouts. And I remember way back when I was in college, they said that most of the worth of most classes could be judged inversely by the number of handouts. So, but I got lots, but because there's so much things that in whatever, I don't know, 50 years or something of raising hay, I've probably made every mistake that could have been made, paid the price. Good thing my wife worked in town, and and they get a good job like at the school district, and then you have health insurance too. So you can survive a lot making hay if you have that. I said, well, what are we going to get to know? One time we had a conference here. I think I was still teaching. It must have been about 1974 or something. And we had this conference here, and the president of Flathead Community College, I think, up there in Montana, he came down and he kind of gave an opening address. And it was kind of it was an ag sort of a thing, kind of like this one, but it wasn't as sophisticatedly well done like we are now. They are now. And he said, he said, we were going to have this thing on wheat. And one of the guys went, he asked, one of the guys, he said, say you're going to go to that seminar they're having at the college there about wheat. And he said, oh, I don't think so. He says, I ain't farming near as good as I know how to now. So he said, didn't see no use in going to the class. And I think that's a lot of stuff. We know some stuff, and we say, oh, I shouldn't do that. And we do it, and maybe it's not so good. But I want to start out with what is the value of hay? What? Yeah, I got to have one of those. It's like a sing-along. And he said, well, what is the value of hay? Got this out of the Billings Gazette Sunday. Wyoming hay production, 212, worst since 2002. But that was just for some classes. Overall, it was probably the worst feed production year since 1919. So we wonder where are we getting these prices, of, hell, I have the glasses. Where are we getting these prices, $300 a ton? Well, hay was, in Colorado a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, was $300 a ton for good horse hay. And we never got it here. So, the other thing they said that in all classes of hay, we were down 100,000 acres. Now, why did people get out of the hay business? Well, some was driven out by the dry, but probably, mostly they were driven out because it costs a doggone much to put up hay. So, with that, what's the price here? Let's look at that. In 1972, I seeded, or 71, and then carried in 72, I seeded down 80 acres of hay. And I
Larger?
was, huh?
Larger?
Oh, that's all right. Put your glasses on. Anyway, seeded it down, and this was in 1972 that I had my first production off of that. I was still teaching at college, I was doing that out there, and I was, you know, running day and night. But anyway, it was a great adventure. And we sold that hay that year for $17 a ton. Jeez, wish we could. I was kind of worried the guy wasn't going to take it all. It wasn't, maybe it wasn't the greatest hay. I wasn't, maybe I didn't have all the good ways of doing it, but some of it was really good. And some days it wasn't so good for different reasons. Okay, but on that same year, diesel was 17.9. 17 cents a gallon. $17 a ton. Okay, here we are in 2012. We'll look at last year's hay. Okay, what's our price? We don't know, but we know the price of diesel was. So, should hay be $340 a ton? Probably. That's not the only factor for sure. But if you start looking at some of these inputs, maybe. You got this handout here, this Cattle Business Weekly, and we have a distinguished guest who just did the thing before me here, and he's quoted in here, Dallas Mount. Said. Yeah, he's, boy, am I up to date, huh?
We probably got what they paid for.
And I pulled this off the internet, I think about a week or so ago. It was the day it came out. It was the January 15th. And he looks at some of this. He says, you know, reported hay prices 200 to 250 a ton. Grass hay from 180 to 230. So maybe that's not so far out of whack, huh? So probably overall catches right now 225 to 250 is catching most hay. And so what is it going to stay there? What's going to happen to it? We're starting to see some resistance. Dairies are selling off some cattle. Ranchers are culling pretty heavy. They're certainly not being able to absorb it here. Where is that place where it starts going to hell? And what is the real cost? Now, you guys remember that guy, Gerry?
Oh yeah, Jim Garrish.
Jim Gerry, who gave the talk here and said, don't make hay. And because it does not pay. And if you'll get a chance to really read this, and it kind of says the same thing in here. Of course, he says some of it again. But that's the deal here, is that where does it pay and where doesn't it? Now, if this is just for a year or so, 2 years, whatever, probably a lot of ranchers will just absorb it and go on with their program. If they're going to start making hay, they got to think about a lot of things. And what are those costs? For example, in this same article, they talk to a rancher, and he says, I've always been able to buy hay at a price that is less than the market value of the nutrients. Okay. Just the nutrients in that hay. And he puts it at about $100 to $110 a ton. Okay, so if you're selling hay, and we sold a lot of hay this spring, this first cutting's $140 a ton. I knew that I wasn't even paying for my fertilizer. But that's where things were. And the rancher who was not making his own hay was coming out pretty good. And the prices were up too at that time. Now what's happened is the price of hay went up, and now the price of cattle's going down because they're starting to flood the market. So everything's getting all screwed up again. Now maybe we're at the place, we're kind of like the gas guys. They put it up to $4 a gallon, so that when they take it down to $3.80, man, isn't that nice? You know, hell, it isn't the 10 cents that's bothering, or 20 cents that's bothering, it's that other $4. And that's where we're, so maybe that's where we are with hay. Maybe when it comes down, it's gonna come down in here somewhere, and maybe we can grow it. Because us guys that grow hay, and the other thing is, no matter how good it is, you don't really get that much more for it. Because we're not based on tests, we're just based on tons. And say, like this stuff here. I said, man, that'd be pretty nice hay. I don't know exactly what the analysis on it is. We will know in a couple of weeks. Some of it's been sent to California. Third cutting, alfalfa. Second cutting, grass mix. Third cutting, grass mix. Can't hardly tell the difference. Except that we're getting that third cutting. A lot of guys aren't. So that's part of this, I guess. How do we manage and produce, and what is our cost of production if we are putting that much nutrients in? Let's look at another thing here. I got a whole bunch. No, did we not produce one on the cost of production for alfalfa? It's called fertilizer management for alfalfa. Did we have one of these?
It's inside this.
Oh, it's inside that one. Oh, he used both sides.
Yeah.
He's really tricky. I waste a lot of it.
Do you have an extra one of those stand-ups?
We go.
You know what? I'll go make some more.
You want to just-
Anyway, if I just have this one. I might have a page. I do have a page taken out of there. Who needed that?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and kind of what we're going to hit at here. Oh, hey, look at that. Are you the driver now?
Yeah, but it's in here. It's inside this.
Right,
Okay.
but okay,
Theirs
this-
is inside the handout we
Yeah.
just got.
this doesn't do like my iPad. If we'll move this up just a little bit, thanks. Okay, well adapted. This came out of the University of Utah, or Utah State University, on some stuff. Yields of 8 to 10 tons per acre. I said, boy, if I could do that, if I could get 8 to 10 ton.
That's,
Is this the wrong one?
yes, yes.
Oh, that writes on there.
Yeah, and don't write on it.
Don't write on
No.
it. Okay. I'm having a lot of trouble. This is about as technical as I can get. And if we could get 10 ton, you know, now we're up there. Now we don't have any trouble paying for things that alfalfa needs. Okay, take for on that second page, right here, removal per ton of hay. Okay? Average nutrients removed in a ton of hay, 60 pounds potash. Okay? And that costs 33 cents a pound. That's at $660 a ton. Okay, but it's only half, or about half of it is nutrient, the other half is something else. It's 60%. It's only 60%. So you're going to use 0.060. Okay. So when you think in terms of how much you're going to put on, remember it's not just the gross tonnage, the gross pounds you're putting on, it's what's available. Probably if we took a kind of a fairly new seeding, we'd be looking at maybe 7 ton to the acre. I haven't been there. 7 ton to the acre. Okay, if it takes 60 pounds of available potash to make a ton of hay, it's going to take 420 pounds of available potash. That's going to take 700 pounds of product. Okay, with me here? So when you're starting to figure what costs are going into this hay, phosphate, 15 pounds about it uses. Okay, so what's that worth? I figured it once. About $13, $14 a ton. So we're starting to add these things up here. Okay, so 700 pounds per acre. Okay, but tonnage-wise, per ton, about 60 pounds. So we're looking at what, $43, something like that. $33, I guess. And then about another $16 for phosphate, about $5 for sulfur, and other trace nutrients, probably another $9. Okay, per ton. Okay, we start getting all this stuff put together, and we see that, gosh, we're at that $100 for every ton that's removed. Now, I got a little statement in another one that says, yeah, I'm good. Here. Okay, we're still here. We're pretty good, but on those costs, micronutrients. Now, the thing that we never mention whenever we sell alfalfa hay is that it also takes out, or takes from your place, about 60 pounds of nitrogen. Well, it's not so bad on alfalfa hay in that you don't really have to put it on all the time. But the guy that's buying it from you is getting 60 pounds of nitrogen. Okay, so you've taken it from your place, send it down the road. That 60 pounds of nitrogen is probably worth about $43 a ton. Where am I? Here. So now we don't have much trouble coming up to something like $110, do we? And we haven't started to cut it, to water it, to labor it. Then, when that guy gets it, he buys it from you. He puts that on his place, and he's got the nitrogen and all this stuff. If you feed on your place, what's returned to your soil is about 85 to 90% of the nutrients of the hay stay on the place where it's fed. So if you don't cut hay and you feed on your place, that's how much, about 80% maybe of this, you don't have to add in each year. So that guy Gerry who says, just move the fences and the cattle, and when you run out of feed, that's it, get rid of the cattle, or make sure you got enough of them places that you're going to hold them. Okay, so look at the advantage. Here's me selling hay. Here's this guy feeding it. So, has hay been? It's been traditionally way underpriced. Now, how much more does it cost? About every source says that it takes about $60 a ton to put up hay. That's what kind of custom guys that put it in a stack for you. So something like that. So we're at 170 still. No interest, no
Labor.
labor, no water cost. If you're renting land, whatever, put a land rent in there, you know, even something small like $60 an acre, 1/7 ton, you're still looking at $10 or $12 a ton. You know. So all of a sudden we're way behind in trying to market these. So maybe this is a pretty good correction that's happening. That when it goes down, that we will get. It'll all shake out. I don't think that people can stay in the business under $200 a ton for selling hay. And right now, you can get that and more. Just looking at some prices on the internet. And one of the reasons, too, he says, in 2012, U.S. hay production dropped to 120 million tons, 18% lower than the year before. So that's for all over the country, all the different. So there's no place that's really too immune. California right now, horse quality alfalfa, $280 a ton. West Kansas is $400 a ton. Boy, that's a place to go for hay. Northeast Canada is about $300 a ton. Orchard grass mixes, $250, $275 a ton. Oat hay. Oat hay, you couldn't give it away 5 years ago. First of all, you don't want to have it in your yard because all the mice in the world come in. And you don't want to put it, so you don't want to put it next to your buildings or anything else. But, $40 a ton, a lot of times you would catch it, you know, about the same as straw. Better feed, much better feed than straw, but just didn't have value. Right now, it's $150 to $190 a ton. I think Rick LaPlante just was telling me that they shipped their barley straw for $130 a ton. Did you? Something like that? Remember?
No, but we didn't have any of that, so.
You didn't
It
stop?
wasn't Rick.
Oh. Okay.
That's without the seed head?
Oh,
Is that
yeah,
without
just
the
a
seed head?
straw.
Jeez.
No,
Corn
no, no.
stalks next to me in Wheatland sold for $125 a ton, baled corn stalks.
Now, and then, and they're not that usable, right, as they are? You gotta inject them with some,
Cows,
You gotta juice it.
gestation on nothing else later.
yeah, you gotta juice it up though a little bit, with some liquid nitrogen or something, you know, or molasses, or have the sweet licks out there. So where's your coffee? You know, we're getting pretty high.
We have some people that needed handouts.
Okay, so all in all, we haven't been getting what it takes to stay in business. And if a whole bunch of guys woke up in the last couple of years and said, even without the drought, you know, I put on this much fertilizer, and and that was less than I sold it for. And then you got the hay, the ultimate user saying, I've always been able to buy hay at a price that's less than the market value of the nutrients. Boy, doesn't that just grab you when you're selling hay? But if you can raise grass and stuff on your place, feed it on your place, hold those nutrients, you've got a heck of an advantage. If you think you got room on your place to grow hay, to grow extra hay beyond your cattle, don't get more cattle. You know, because you're going to give away your place year after year, or you're going to buy that much stuff. We need that many dinosaurs, and we need all these other things that we need to grind up to make this thing work. And so, look at that. Where are we going to be? You know, raising grass hay. I got it up here too. Same kind of thing, except your grass ordinarily it sells for less. You know, and if you got pretty nice grass fields, you know, boy, if you can get, you get 4 ton, man, pretty good. You're a pretty good operator. Okay. The thing is with grass too, is this nitrogen thing. Okay, I've got a handout for that. Boy, I don't have enough of them. I bet there's more than 25 people.
I'll go make some copies.
Okay, give me one of those. And this was another one of those bulletins out of Utah State University that I picked up. And this one is for fertilizer management on grass and grass legume mixtures. The whole thing isn't in your packet. I was running out of paper. Okay, it says grass grown for hay removes large quantities of nitrogen. Okay, a ton of grass is not quite, it doesn't produce as much, or doesn't have as much nitrogen in itself, because usually about 2%. So about 40 pounds of nitrogen in a ton of grass hay, but you got to buy it. Grass won't take it out of the air. And you get a lightning storm, you get about a half a pound or something. It comes down in the rain. And in the Midwest, yeah, they get more rain and all that, and they get some freebie, but we don't. So you got that. You still got the same thing as far as your. It still takes 60 pounds of potassium. Takes about maybe 13 pounds of phosphate. Takes sulfur. Takes almost all of those things except your garden. Now here you're kind of thinking, well, I'm selling this to the guy, or if you're raising it yourself, you're capturing that much nitrogen in the alfalfa hay that you're raising. Really nice deal. Is it pay to fertilize alfalfa with nitrogen? I think so. You know, I know the bulletin says all these tests, they've shown it that if you put extra nitrogen on, you really don't get a big return, a good return on it. On alfalfa, on grass, it's the only thing. That's the only place it's got to get it, is what you put on. Unless you've got a legume mixed through there, which is dying out year after year. and being replaced by dandelions or something. So outside of, so you've got here, if you put it on, when you get a new seeding, it's really worthwhile to put on maybe 20, 40 pounds of nitrogen on that in the spring of that new seeding, because that alfalfa, as it starts to grow into that second year, is in nitrogen debt, because it's doesn't have all the things going on in the soil underneath. We plant seed that's inoculated to help it make what do they call it? Rhizomes, yeah, these things for the nitrogen. So until those get into production, I think that every spring the soil is cold, there's nothing going on under there anyway, so it's what you had left over from last year, and it's starting to get petered out. So the thing is, I think you can profit by having some. Now, if you the phosphate fertilizer that you put on, that's the wrong one. Tell me where. There it is. Okay, the phosphate fertilizer that you put on. Okay, that's the 1152 stuff, and it costs $825 a ton. Okay, and that's coated probably. You want to look at those coated, the things that you can get coated are a good thing to put on the hay. You can get coated on your nitrogen here. You buy that. The coated stuff is 24 pounds of sulfur. Boy, that's a nice deal. You say, well, it comes down the river from Damaris Hot Springs, but nah. Doesn't get to you. Doesn't get to the guys at the far end of the project.
What does the coated do? It does a time release or something?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Keeps from just evaporating.
Volatilizing when the sun hits it, the dew hits it, the sun hits it. Top dressing hay, top dressing alfalfa is kind of a problem because the roots are down there and you're throwing the stuff on top. Now, the thing is, potash and phosphorus, they don't go anywhere really. They don't wash off. There's losses here in uncoated, and so you'd want it coated. If you could dig it in. So the thing is, before you seed down alfalfa, is if you could plow down that 700 pounds or 800 pounds of potash before you get started, and overload it, and then then bleed it for the next 2 years or something, but if you're going to try to replace it each year, it's going to take this 420 pounds if you're going to have a 7-ton yield. And what kind of yields are people getting? Well, new seedings in their second year, we've done the 7-ton, and that's 3 cuttings. And we've pushed 10-ton maybe in some pet field that's sandy and deep and wet. And then the following year, alfalfa has a life of about 4 to 8 years. It's going to die out. Every year, some of them die. You walk out in there and you say, why is that one turning yellow? But he's on his way. Pretty soon they start getting too far apart. Once they start getting that far apart, no matter how much fertilizer you put on, there's just a limit to what each plant can do. And you're starting to get a diminishing return. So then we start to get kind of averagey. And we start getting down to maybe like a 5-ton. We get, we get 2 and 2 and 1. And that's probably 4th, 5th year alfalfa. That's as good as it gets, probably. We've been able, with Roundup Ready stuff, been able to keep some of the weeds out. and there's not as much pressure there. You can keep the foxtail out with Roundup Ready. You can keep out dandelions. Lots of luck with shepherd's purse. Not so good anymore. Kochia, not so good anymore. Roundup, they're getting immune to the Roundup. And what's the other, skips my mind. Lamb's Quarter. Lamb's Quarter has figured it out. And we're just not being able to clean our fields again. I gotta move on. Okay, anyway, that other handout, did we get them all out?
We did.
Okay, shows what it takes to grow grass hay and those costs. And so keeping in mind, if you're a small producer, and I'm real small. Small producers traditionally have undersold because they think, oh, you know, if I get 5 ton and it pays my water and my taxes, and the guys come by and they buy your stuff. It may not be very good hay either, because if you had to have a custom guy do it, and custom guys, well, they're really stretched. If they're really good, they're already tied up with couple big outfits, and they're doing the hay on some ranches or stuff like that, and you can't get them. You notice these guys that show up every once in a while, they got a brand new windrower, and they're looking for custom work. And I said, boy, that'd be neat. He's not there next year. You can't pay for it doing the 10-acre plots where they left the stake for the goat out in the middle of it, you know, the steel pin. I wore out a couple of windrowers learning that. We used to get like $2 and $3 an acre for windrow. And now, you know, those costs have really gone up. It takes about, what? What's the customer rates for windrowing now? It's pushing $20? Anybody?
17 to 18 and 20,
Yeah.
depending on what size of acreage.
Yeah. So now, if he's at your place cutting 2-ton hay, it's getting a little bit more expensive for you. If he's cutting 6-ton hay, and you need him because your machine won't go through it. But 2 to 3 tons. So we're looking at about $7 an acre or ton to cut. Baling, what's baling now? 75 cents a bale? Does that catch a?
Big bales are running 18 to 20.
The big squares?
squares.
Yeah. And they're pushing close to a ton, right, on that? 1,600?
Depends on what you're cutting.
Yeah,
16
okay.
to 24.
Small square. The small square bale, probably 75 cents. Takes 35 of them to make a ton. 3 ton, on 3 tons, it'd be 105 of them would be what? About $80. So divide that by 3. About $25 in baling a ton. Hauling, about the same, 75 cents. You'll take it over and put it in your stack yard. So another $25. So if you're putting these things, now you're putting these costs on top of that, on top of the $110 worth of nutrients that you got to replace. We just can't be selling hay probably for much under $200 a ton, that's for sure. And this year was kind of a makeup year, I guess, for hay growers, but they didn't have the hay, a lot of them. Or they sold early, or as some of us, we'd promised the people, well, here's the price. We're raising it some, it's going wild. But we raised it some, and then it was gone. When I was at the state fair, took some samples down there, to put in the state fair thing, so they would take them to Wisconsin. So, well, you got to win there first. You got to win the state first, and then you can go to Wisconsin. But I took it down there, and there was a horseshoer giving out water for the EMTs or something to people, jars of water. He says, "Oh, did you bring down hay?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what are you getting for hay?" I said, "I don't know, 140." And he said, "Jesus," he said, "I just had 20 tons sent down from Buffalo. They charged me $300 a ton, and they charged me $200, or I'm sorry, 20 ton, $800 to haul it down. So he was at $340 a ton, and he said, "Boy," and he was kind of happy to get it. You know. And I was pretty far out of whack by then, you know. I'd promised out too much. So anyway, that's with that. What's that first picture we was going to put up there? Yeah, that one. That's the only bale of hay I ever sold. I made money. And that's good. And so somewhere though, these prices are going to stabilize. I think that if you're a seller, you got to be thinking in terms of having it somewhere around that that 200, 225 place. Or else they're kind of laughing at you. And maybe it's going to get squeezed so bad that we're going to have to take less again, but because they're saying, "Hey, we can't afford it," until the cattle bounce back up and stuff. We got the horse users, and of course, if they come to buy hay, they always have like 3 little kids with them. And they're going to have to sell their ponies if you know, God, the hay's high. And so, yeah, okay.
Good tip, Gerry.
Round up some kids at the local place.
Yeah, yeah. If you're buying hay, bring a lot of kids with you. And yeah, and if you got an old pickup that you don't really use, drive in. You know, the end gates, box is cracked.
And then you take the little kids.
It's like a blue Dodge.
Yeah, you take a little dirt, you know.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about making nice hay. I've made some mistakes, but here's a few things I want to talk about. I started out just trying to get some nice hay from the horses, because every time we'd make a bunch of alfalfa and somebody would come and buy the whole thing, and then we were scrounging around in the spring, you know, looking for hay for all of it. And you'd go and you'd buy it, and God, you got to pay it for that. You know? Maybe it wasn't much, it was $80 a ton at the time, or $65 or something. But boy, you were always picking out those moldy things and throwing them on the old truck out there. And so I wanted to get away from buying somebody else's hay. So I started to really try to do a few things. I guess have I got a picture up there that shows a windrower in the field?
I don't know.
What's it called? There, that one. And no, that's pretty good hay. Yeah, what's that? That's got to be like 4 feet up to the top of the reel, you know. So one of the problems with this picture, or with this whole thing is, I'll let it get too big.
There is no color but green.
That's what they say, that it's green so that the Alice Chalmers can't find them in the field. That was some guy from Iowa said that a lot of years ago. He wasn't right either. But anyway, what happened was it rained a couple of times, and we wanted to cut last week, and there's another one coming, and you get sucked in. Now there's a lot of feed, and there's pretty good feed. But it's, the thing is, if you let it head out like this, there's probably orchard grass heads and stuff all over there. It's not gonna come back as good for you on that second cutting, because it's kind of got, it's like a grain, it's kind of got that one good push. So if you can cut it down here, and maybe just a quarter of its head, the other ones will cut, they'll say, well, we gotta get going, and you get your second cutting back a little bit better. So, you can see that here's some stuff. This is second cutting, there's a little bit, there's a head there. But this is second cutting, and it's pretty good length to it, you know. So you can get that second to come on and kind of match the first. If you don't, try to take too big a first. So you don't want that. The other thing you might notice in this, and then there's another picture got of the top of there's an overview. Yeah, this one. And that's that same field. Probably not the same year. This come off of Google. It must be pretty new, because I just built that building. But anyway, last year. And one thing you'll notice here, and in that other picture, there's no end rows. And that's one of the things I really feel like helps me make nice hay, is if you go in and cut the ends and get them baled off of there. It's like, man, yeah, but that's another 4 more days. That's stuff that you couldn't get through, you know, wouldn't have been so bad 4 days earlier, or 6 days earlier, or whatever it takes. But I feel like that you get it back. I think that you get those days back, because if it rains, you can rake them and you can turn and you got a place to go. If you get them out of the way, and it's really nice to cut, the thing is, you don't drive on those end rows. Insurance claim a couple of years ago with Larry French, the Farm Bureau apparently is sponsoring a lot of this, or what? I don't know. They're on a lot of the program.
They're not, I don't think they sponsor any of this.
Okay, and he's my insurance man too. So he was, and one of the things is a hay fire. They had all these big old round bales stuck in this shed, and it blew up. Where did that probably come from? Well, you know, end rows, you drive on, you got those big old wet things, you wrap them up. You still, when you go to make that hay, you're still going to take the end rows off first, even though you drove on them. The rest of the field might be a lot drier than those end rows. And they're going to go in the back of your stack somewhere inside. And they're going to get covered up, maybe. Or small squares, whatever. The first ones to come off, so they're going to be in the back of your pile. You drive by, oh yeah, you got to have one of these. You drive by and you stick your moisture tester in there, you know, and, oh, those are all right. You know. But down in the back and underneath, how hot's it back there? How hot's it starting to get? So I just bite the bullet and go ahead, cut my end rows. We turn everything. We got one of those two-wheel turner jobbies, 3 wheels. And so we cut those ends. We'll wait maybe a day or two. We'll turn them, get that underside, turn them in the morning, try to bale them in the afternoon. The other thing it's done, and this is a small field, but it's reduced your risk. And that's one of the things, risk management. You don't have all of your hay down. You got all your end rows down, all over maybe in 6 or 7 different fields. But you don't have all your hay down. If it rains, you're not going to be turning on those end rows again. Trying to rake them, trying to get them the hell out of the way. And you know, when you drive across and that conditioner grabs them and it throws up the pile. And so you either got to have lots of college kids around or something that go, or you do it yourself till your shoulders give out, and you got to bust those up. Well, if you don't drive on them, you don't have to do that. You go to your end rows, you go to your corners, square up your corners, and if you're patient, you wait a couple of days, and you go and bale them off. Then when you go to cut, it's easy. If it rains on now, you reduce the part of, they're gone off of this alfalfa field. The end rows are gone. Okay, now you can drive those. You got a place to turn. You can turn them at 10 in the morning. Go in and be baling on grass. You're going to bale in the afternoon. Don't bale grass hay with a dew on it. But alfalfa hay, you're probably going to catch it that way. How do you know when hay's ready to bale? Alfalfa. In the afternoon, about 4 in the afternoon. It's better to be so dry you don't want to touch it. And you reach it, you get those stems. If you can squeeze and make it look shiny on those stems, it's not ready, even though the leaves all want to fall off. But if you can do those squishy, then it's probably either that or if you take it and it cracks, you can just break that stem. Stem moisture is what will kill you. This is third cutting, and it's been through conditioner, so it's beat up a little. But it's got that, the moisture is all out of these. And boy, for third cutting in Wyoming, we don't get that very often. You say, man, that's really nice. When we can get them to do that. Okay, there's still a little bit of moisture. I tested 10.2, I think. That's the other thing. Get yourself a moisture tester and learn to trust it after a while. Check it with, if somebody else has got one, check them against each other. And if you start to know really what it's doing. I really like this one. At the time we bought it, it also came with an outfit that had sensors in the baler chamber. And then you could just lay this on the dash of your tractor. You press the button anytime. And this cable is a long one that goes back. And it has 2 probes. And as the bale is going by, it measures the resistance, the amount of and the moisture in that bale as it's going by. And it's pretty good. I just got lazy about hooking up the wires all the time.
Can you use it on a windrow too, or just in a...
You can. You can use it in a windrow. What you do is you get a bucket. You get a bucket of hay, maybe 6-7 inches in a 5-gallon bucket, 10 inches. Grabbing it here and there. Make sure you get some from underneath. And then you put this on. And when you press it down on there, when you press that down, it's got a switch in the top. So you got to press it. That's how hard you want to press it, and that's tells you how hard to press it. So when that compresses, maybe we could measure this. Says not yet. 10.7. I think I was 10.2 or something with the probe, but I really wasn't getting it in there very good because it was giving away. So yeah, you can do that. This one's a pretty good one, and it came with that other stuff. At the time, they were really expensive. They were like $900, and that was like on $65 hay, way back. But it's you get to, boy, I jump off just any time. It's especially if you're making hay at night. This thing with the alfalfa, when you know it's that dry, you know that you'll be able to go in maybe at midnight, I don't know, 2 in the morning, whenever, and that heat of the day is gone and it leaves that little bit of moisture in there, and the leaves stop puffing out. So you can start baling. You'll be able to bale. You can bale with some dew. You can go to about like 18%. When do I have to quit?
2:10. You have 15 minutes to talk fast.
Okay, you bail, probably about 5:30 in the morning, you'll notice that the tractor sounds different. And you make some tests, and you're gonna be way too wet. So if you get over, like, say, maybe if it's fairly accurate, comparable to this one, you're probably getting up to 18% moisture. Then you got another way you can go. If you're putting acid on, this stuff, I think it has some acid on it, but propionic acid, it's what's in the belly of a cow a little bit, I guess. And it will preserve, and you can go to about 22 or 23% moisture and really save those leaves. This was just a bale. But if you can do that, you know, you really got some tests there and good points. If you're going to feed it yourself, if you're going to sell it, you probably won't get what it's worth, but you're making nice hay. Your reputation will spread that you make nice hay. And weed free. We're almost always, every field is certified weed free. And so we ought to be charging for that. Last summer there was a backcountry horseman convention up in, or something, rendezvous, that's what they call it. And I belong to it. Anyway, up at Pilot and Index, at Pilot Creek Campground, and there was people came from South Dakota and Kansas and Colorado that belong to the Wyoming backcountry horse, but and just for belonging and being part of it. And they came and they were paying at that time $12 a bale for certified weed-free grass. Hell, I had a load up there for $5 a bale. I got sold out really quick. So anyway, they already, it was already shown that it was going to be high. If it stays real high, it's going to push some producers out. Is it going to correct itself? I guess. What else do I know about making nice hay? Oh, on baling grass. You don't want to bale grass with that dew on it, because it will mold. And if you're looking at horse people, it's got to be that nice and smell that good, or else you don't feel so good about selling it to horse people. And it can bother them. Cutting, time of day to cut. If you want really high, like in the competitive hay business, you know, you're sending samples, you want to cut it early in the morning, because all the nutrients, it's sort of like you don't chop corn too quick in the morning because the nitrates are up in the corn, you know, your silage might get a little too poisonous. Oat hay, you don't want to cut early in the morning. Nitrates might be up. But in alfalfa, you want it up, especially if you're in company, you want it up as high. So you want to cut it in the morning. You probably don't want a windrow with dew on it, because you got to wait. It's going to take another day to get that dew out of there if it's thumped together. So you want to back off of that. Once the dew's kind of gone, and then you probably don't want to cut too far into the afternoon if you're really wanting to make higher quality hay. If you got a lot of acres, you got to cut all you can. But you'll understand that the feed value will drop off a point or two through the day. Baling grass hay, you don't want to have any moisture on it, and you want it. I usually bale grass hay in the afternoon. Even if it's mixed with alfalfa, there's a little alfalfa in this. This will cushion it, and it'll capture those leaves, and they won't all go puffing out and dropping on the ground outside the baler. Yeah, all that stuff that comes out of your baler, you know, that's pretty good hay. That's the best of it. You know, we talk about the value of alfalfa. People are buying alfalfa horse feed pellets to mulch their gardens with. It's really a good, it's like you know, 3% nitrogen, which is kind of a pretty good thing, and then they're spreading it out. It's pretty safe to use on, alfalfa is safe to use on gardens because we don't have any sprays that you can spray alfalfa, spray weeds and alfalfa with that have any carryover. And so you're not gonna poison your garden or something else. So it's selling that way. On grass hay, and we start spraying that. And we got lots of things we can spray with. Herbicide carryover. Let's look at some of those. Let's see, lots of those. Get those spread out. Had them. There's some of these. This is another one. There's a bunch of these. I think that the lady from the Weed and Pest has them out in the hallway. And this is on the cycle of aminopyrrolitic, or pyrrolids, aminopyrrolids. These are things we can spray grass hay with. Takes out dandelions, takes out kochia, any broadleaf. Okay? As we look at these,
Things will be safe for the animal to eat, is that what you mean, instead of like D4D or something?
yeah, it goes right through the animal. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Goes right through, is not broken down in digestion. You have no downtime for is that one? Oh, see if, is it Jane that's out in the hallway? She has it. Yeah, I'll bet she does. Okay, now, I also printed off another deal here. If you look on about the second page of that pamphlet on herbicide carryover, the one with the wheelbarrow on the front, and it gives you, there's a little table there, and it gives you some of those names of some of those things. I've put them all that I could sort of find that I recognize names on, and I put them all on this sheet. Do we have that sheet? There they are. Watch for carryover and straw mulch, manure, grass clippings. Goes right through livestock, just as good as if you sprayed it. If you put it in your compost pile, it doesn't break down. It would with lots of air and water and stuff, but most of us are not sort of making super compost. And so you turn around, you spread it on your garden, probably not so good. It's names, you know, milestone, chaparral. You go out to the Weed and Pest, you say, hey, I got some thistle in my grass hay. Milestone. So you spray your thing. And then you decide, oh, I think I'll clean the horse pen, throw it on my garden. Or then somebody comes, they come from town and they say, can we have some manure? Oh, yeah. And they didn't have such a good garden. And now, 5 or 6 years ago, I didn't know about these too good. And I was blaming Simplot. These things, I said, boy, they're buying that Russian fertilizer, and they're putting all their heavy metals in there because my garden's going on. And probably every time I came back from roping, I'd clean my horse trailer and I'd throw it out there in the garden under the trees. Pretty soon we didn't have any plums and we didn't have any apples, but I didn't. And that, you know, so it's taken me now about 6 years for it to work its way out of there. And we started having some better stuff, better luck last year. Now we still got this huge pile. We had rope and steers and all this. We get a pretty good pile of manure, and we composted it. And now it'll have to go back onto those grass fields. It's probably pretty well gone out, but things like chaparral, would really take the milkweed out. And so we got addicted. I said, man, we'll spray it twice. What the hell? Redeem, wide match, curtail, stinger. Well, these are named, you know, if you're been in ag, you know, the old man's using it on in the sugar beet fields and everything else, you know. So the younger people. Okay, graze on Tordon. Tordon we've known for a long time is nasty. We've seen fields around Powell that about 1935 they put it on, you know, and then for the next 15 or 20 years they didn't raise anything on those fields. Redeem. That's another one we get from Weed and Pest cleanup. So a lot of these things. The last one on that list has been recalled, and they found out the Forest Service was using it. They thought they could, you know, clean up noxious weeds, and then they found out the pine trees died in around the picnic areas and stuff that they had tried to clean up. So it's been pulled off. But those others, just to remind you, Sandy Frost, this person from the Weed and Pest District, she's been putting out a couple articles every year for the last couple of years, and now he said, well, gee, if I give away some manure and it's somebody's, here's some more of those, and somebody's garden dies, you know, I'm liable or what. And that's one of the risks of giving stuff away. You know, in Montana, it's not legal to ship straw or grass or hay off of your place if it's been treated with one of these chemicals. And by law now we're required to record when we spray. We don't always get it done, but we're supposed to write down when we sprayed and what the chemicals were, so that we could go back. Now I've got those sheets, you know, I have to fill them out dutifully when I spray, and then I put it, and I don't know where that sheet is this year. So next year I'll start another folder. And so we don't always keep as good a track of that, but with these carryovers, it's a little bit getting a little bit dicier. Your product liability. Say you sell hay, and you sell hay to the people, and they feed it to their horses, and then they put the manure on their garden, and then they're mad at you. Whether you could be sued or whatever, I don't guess. I don't know. But you want to warn them that if you're using any of those things, you want to warn them that those things are in your. Okay, what else?
Do you want to do the insects?
Insects? Oh man, we got good insect stuff. Everybody know about weevil? Yeah. Can you find some insect pictures? Weevil, there. This is the adult weevil. And then, let's go to another page in there. Yeah, here's what we see, you know, when we're making hay, your windrower's all covered with that. And you can, if you're going to try to take care of them, you'll start to notice, I don't know if you can you see in this picture that one side's kind of silvery? Turn off these lights. Yeah. Yeah. Here, that's weevil damage. and they're just sucking everything out of the top of those. And if you're gonna try to, what are you gonna do? You say, well, okay, it's if it's probably only this size, I think I would spray it. If it's a little bit bigger, you can go in and cut it and get it baled off, and then, but where your windrow's laid, that's dead booger. I mean, those plants are not gonna come back, because as soon as they sense that they're on something dry, they're gonna crawl off and get on the little shoots of your new cutting. So as soon as you can get baled off, you can go in and spray. If you're gonna try to do it yourself, you're gonna spray with malathion. Is about the only thing that you can use anymore that shouldn't kill you, and that they'll sell you. Everything else, just about everything else, diazinon is gone. It's just about the same chemical, but it's been jerked. Now, maybe some of the custom applicators can still get that. Right now, what Simplot's using is a product called Mustang. They mix it with Lorsban. Really hammers them. So if you were going to spray it at this stage here, you'd have them come in. You'd want something that doesn't, like, you don't want to come in with your little outfit, or something, and have tracks every 30 feet or something. Somebody with 120-foot booms. Keep the damage to a minimum. Get them sprayed. There's a couple of the Mustang Lorsban, then you've got some downtime, but you're still wanting it to grow anyway, so you've got some time. If you're gonna, with the malathion, you could cut real quickly in the next couple of days, but and you could put it on by yourself. But I would cut it if you could, get it out of the way, spray it, and be ready for the next onslaught of pests, which is probably aphids. Now, one thing about when they spray this Lorsban and Mustang, and you spray with malathion, is you got all those little pet lady beetles out there, and you think, Jesus, I'm going to kill them all, and you probably are. Or you're going to kill a lot of them. And that's true. And so you want to make sure if you go out there, and you think, I think I got maybe having a problem. You take your cap and you get it, and you got about 7 or 8 or 10 in that cap, and you made a swing. You got to do something. And there's only one lady beetle, so they don't eat them. The lady beetles don't eat the weevil. They will protect you from the alfalfa weevil. Aphid later on. So you got to just sacrifice them, I guess, and because you're going to have to do something to save that tonnage. But they will suck it down to where it makes a third of what you wanted. Yes, sir.
I've had alfalfa weevil for 2 years in a row, and the question I want to ask is, if you treat them, is it going to be a perennial problem in that field where I'm going to have to treat it every year, or am I making headway by treating 2 years in a row?
I think I don't seem to have to treat every year. I don't know for sure what the mechanism is of why they're there. I think if you spray the stubble, you've probably gotten a lot of the adults and stuff, because the Lorsban and Mustang are a nerve cholinesterase inhibitor. And so they're going to paralyze their nervous system. So I think that whatever's on the ground, you're probably going to get rid of a lot of those.
If I'm spraying while it's still a standing crop.
I don't know.
Seems like over in Bighorn County, we got hard weevils every year.
Yeah, because you're earlier, and they see your stuff earlier than us.
So we get your weeds and then we get your bugs both?
Yeah, but we do send you, we do flush our toilets though. You guys have nice bright fields when we're not even thinking about cutting. So you've attracted them. It's warmer. It's warmer. Where do they, yeah, the weevil themselves, you know, long ago, where's that running over? Long ago, like in the 30s and 40s, the only defense they didn't have, you know, they had Paris green for potatoes, you know, that's about it. We didn't have the chemicals and stuff. And people, the old timers would take and harrow those fields. And it might even work where you guys are so much earlier and raise a lot of dust and kind of knock them out of they're in that little green shoot. But here, you know what, the last 15 years, in February, we've got green shoots like this on a lot of those hay fields. You know, end of February, so now, the weevil do not overwinter well, the adults. Most of them die. So they're kind of new, coming on.
The colder the better.
Yeah, maybe this year, you know, we got, what, 18 below there a few days or something? 14 days? Yeah, I think that's gonna help us. So, yeah, you just keep attracting them all you can. But yeah. Yeah, well, I used to hay cube for Mark Robertson when I first came to this country. And we could always start in Lovell. You know, first week in June, I go, what the hell? Ours isn't even, you know, ours didn't make your boots sweat when you walked through it, you know. And those guys are cutting. You could always start over there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got two quick questions for you. One, when you cut your grass hay early, what kind of tonnage loss are you getting? We always let ours first cut kind of run wild so that we get the tonnage.
I know.
So, I mean, are you,
How good is your second coming back?
well,
You got to, you know.
it comes back okay. I mean, we get a good second. There's no such thing as third where I'm at.
The third's kind of tough here too. On a lot of the grasses, it depends on the types of grass. This was like a horse mix or something that we planted. I don't know. And then we threw some alfalfa we had laying around for about 30 years. Threw it in there, and every one of them came up.
But then kind of my next question going on that is, you're showing you won the hay show, whatever, by cutting early. Is that expanding your marketing opportunities?
Probably not to the point that it's, that, do they know it? Do they appreciate it? Probably not. I know it. Now, the protein, that stuff that went to that contest, that protein was 17.5. Imagine grass at 17.5.
Yeah.
What's grass? 9?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we were doing some management things that were they cost effective? I don't. I know I can always sell more hay than I have. I said, well, if he was a better operator, you'd have more hay. But
So on the treatment of weevils on alfalfa, is there a benchmark as to when you think you get the best result? If you're getting them in your hat or your cap right now, you just about better get with it. And airplane looks good, you know, if you don't want the tire tracks. So don't try to outguess it, just watch for what you're finding.
If they're there by the time, and especially, you know, you get caught in one of those things where, geez, we just watered and you're getting done watering, and you look at your boots, you know, and it's all, they're stuck all over your muck boots, you know, and ooh, I'm in trouble. Can't cut. But once they start coming, they crawl to the top and they start sucking that top out. And that's why it turns white like that. But they crawl up. They overwinter. Do I have a picture of the overwintering? You need to be somewhere else.
We do, well, we probably better.
Is there somebody else?
If you want to
supposed to
stay, if you want to stay around for questions, please do so. You can leave your evaluations here. Otherwise, we'll take a break and then we'll start another round of sessions.